Roadhouse was the screen debut of our special guest tonight. She had a couple of scenes, some of which are cut, some of which we're going to find out weren't cut, but our guest star went on to become the femme fatale of science fiction and noir movies of the 1950s, in movies such as It Came from Outer Space, Cult of the Cobra, Three Bad Sisters, The Glass Web. These titles are so noir. And she has been here with us several times, both on her own and with her husband, the great producer Stanley Rubin. So please welcome our guest who came down here on Mother's Day just to be with us, the one and only Miss Kathleen Hughes. Cornell Wilde we were talking about before that, and that ended up on the cutting room floor. Tell us how you got the part in the picture and what you remember and what happened to your scene.
Well, I had just been signed by Fox. I had been discovered in a little theater in a play by a talent scout from Fox. And they put me under contract. 7-year contract, which unfortunately only lasted for 3 years, but it was better than nothing. And this was my first picture, and wow, what a picture to have to start your career. It was just amazing working on that picture. So I was so thrilled when I got a scene almost immediately in the bowling alley, like within the first day of shooting. I had a scene with Cornell, and I ran up to him and I said, he was bowling, and I said, "Come on, Petey, make this one and I'll kiss you." And he said, "How can I miss?" And then he rolled a strike.
Not much symbolism there, was there?
And of course, it landed on the cutting room floor. But the director's wife, Dusty Anderson, was also in the picture, and she also had a scene with Cornell. And that ended up on the cutting room floor. So I figured if the director's wife can be cut out of the picture, who am I to complain?
Well, you know, Darryl Zanuck was renowned for taking movies into the cutting room, and the only person that had final cut at Fox was Zanuck, period. There was no such thing as anybody else doing that. But boy, I think the picture holds up wonderfully well, and as you said, what an experience working opposite that array of talent. Did you have any contact with Ida Lupino then, and so forth, and some of the other stars as well as Cornell Wilde?
Well, I didn't have really any interaction with Ida in her scenes where she was at the piano. You know, I was lost in the mob at the back of the room. But oh, what a joy it was to be there day after day, hearing her do those wonderful songs. It was really special. Yeah. Anyway, so I did not interact with her. I became friendly with Cornell. He used to paint in his dressing room between scenes. He had an easel and oil paints, and he used to paint. And I chatted with Widmark. We didn't get to know each other, but it was funny. One day, while I was making the picture, I was walking with a friend near Beverly and Fairfax, and there was Richard Widmark, and he passed us. Now, this is before I became Kathleen Hughes. I was still Betty Von Gherkin. That was my real name.
Hollywood born and bred, right?
And Fox said, that would not look good on a marquee. Of course, a few years later, along came Betsy von Furstenberg, and they didn't worry about that. But anyway, they said that name had to go. And so I was Betty. on the set. And walking down the street, there was Widmark, and he said, "Oh, hello, Betty." And I said, "Hello." We chatted for a minute and walked on. And my friend said, "He called you Betty. He knows who you are." He was very impressed.
Now, later on, when you did marry Stanley and so forth, and I know he made a film with Dick Widmark, I think in 1954, or around that time, 55, Destination Gobi, which is quite a film that Stanley produced. You did get to know Widmark and his wife a little bit, and didn't they have a ranch or a farm?
Yes, well, they lived, if anybody knows where Mandeville Canyon is, they lived in Mandeville Canyon. And that was a place where you could have horses and all kinds of animals. And so we were invited to the Widmarks one day, and all of a sudden, Widmark said to me, "Would you like to come out and help me feed the goats?" I said, "Sure." And so there he was with a bottle, and he was feeding the goats, and he let me help. He let me hold the bottle.
Somehow I can't see Jeffy and Tommy Udo feeding a baby goat with a bottle. It's incongruous.
It sure is.
Yeah. So your own career, you were under contract to Fox, but backing it up a little bit, your uncle, I believe you got started with your uncle, was in show business, had a radio show and so forth. Was it Hugh Herbert?
Yeah. Not Hugh Herbert.
No.
Hugh Herbert was the actor.
Right.
Hugh
Hugh Herbert
was my uncle.
Right.
And he wrote a radio show called Meet Corliss Archer. And my cousins and I used to go every week over to CBS and watch the live broadcast of that show.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that kind of gave you your inclination to be an actress. I remember reading an interview with our friend Tom Weaver, and this was a couple years ago, and you said, "I will act till I die or the phone stops ringing." I mean, you really loved it, and so when you got the contract to Fox, I think some of the other movies you were in, Mr. Belvedere Goes to College,
yes,
with Clifton Webb and so forth, but you really kind of distinguished yourself in a movie that Paul Henry directed about women in prison. Was it For Men Only, and kind of got this bad girl reputation?
Yeah, well, it wasn't in prison.
Yeah. Reform school, or
no,
what was it?
No.
What was it?
Well, For Men Only,
Yeah.
it was something that it was a line of dialogue
Right.
in the film. It was a anti-fraternity hazing film.
That's right.
And Paul Henry played a professor, and I played a co-ed who was on the make for Paul Henry.
Not a bad thing.
And there was a line where they were bullying this guy because he was a fink, I don't know. And they were yelling at him, Omega Nu, that was the fraternity. Omega Nu is for men only. And they were, picking on him. And so that's how that title started. And when they ran the picture in small towns, they thought it was a sex film.
It has a certain magazine flavor, that title.
And so they changed the title to The Tall Lie. And I guess I was the tall lie. I was tall in those days. I'm not tall anymore.